Hi, Misfits.
Oh, sorry. I scratched the thing. I'm sorry. I was trying to do my nails. Do it again.
Hi, Misfits. This is Kevin.
And this is Kate.
Welcome to Horrorwood.
COVID freestyle.
COVID freestyle. Tragedy freestyle. We're back.
Is it tragedy free? Because I think this is a rough case.
Yeah. How are you, Kate?
I'm back. Yeah, I'm negative. I'm testing negative of the COVID.
Yes.
It sucked. I still have the cough, and that could take forever to go away. Yeah, I feel like I slept for a week straight, and I don't know what happened in that week. I had to cancel on clients at work.
Yeah.
I had to turn down people, and I hate it because, number one, these are like my regulars.
Right.
And so I hate canceling on them, but also I need money because it's the holidays.
It's the holidays. Exactly.
Yikes.
Oof.
But at least I'm sitting upright. So that's huge progress.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I just went through a rough patch at work, and then, Spencer went through some family stuff, and we are all just trying to take a deep breath.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on here in the old Horrorwood family.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We've all got things and stuff, and it's stressful. And
it's the holidays. Which is the most stressful time. But I'm actually so excited because we're hosting my family this year.
That's right.
And I'm having my very first Chicago Christmas.
I love that.
Where I'm actually like here.
Here in the city.
I love it.
I'm usually here, and I'm going back to West Virginia.
Oh, you are?
Days. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Really? I'm going back the 24th through the 27th. I will be back in West Virginia visiting my dad.
Oh, okay, because we were going to have you over for dinner, but I guess we're not now.
Oh, no.
Well, we'll think of you as we're eating.
Thank you very much while I'm in the mountains.
Yes.
No, I just, I think it's good. We're working on building that relationship, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Taking it day by day.
Got it.
Hour by hour.
All right, let's get
into this episode. So, Kate, have you heard of the Jenny Jones show?
Of course.
Okay, I thought so.
I've heard of this case. I know this case.
Yeah, it's insane. So, for those who don't know, the Jenny Jones show was a fun little trashy TV talk show. I'm calling it trashy out the gate, even though they say they weren't. Come on.
You know what? I get Jenny Jones and Sally Jesse Raphael confused all the time.
Oh my God. I want to go as Sally Jesse Raphael for Halloween.
You should.
With the red bob and the big glasses.
Yes. And in fact, when you told me you were doing this, the image in my head was Sally Jesse.
Sally Jesse. Girl, where is she?
I'm not
sure.
Hope
she's still alive. Anyway, let's think like Ricky Lake, Maury, Jerry Springer,
yes,
Sally
it was that
Jesse.
era.
It's that era of talk shows. You get the picture. So in 1995, an episode of Jenny Jones would be filmed live in front of a studio audience, but it would never make it to public broadcast.
And why was that, Kevin?
Instead, the episode would air in its entirety in a courtroom during a murder trial.
Yikes.
What was supposed to be a funny little segment, that's debatable, would lead to a brutal shooting that left one man dead and another pleading with a jury, citing what was known at the time as the gay panic defense.
The fact that that is even something that existed.
Oh, I'm going to get into that because it is scary. Let's dive into the murder of Scott Amedure. Let's dive into the murder of Scott Amedure by Jonathan Schmitz.
Here we go.
Scott Bernard Amedure was a Michigan guy through and through.
Okay.
Born on January 26th, 1963, he was the youngest in a big family of 6 kids.
Wow.
It's a large one. Raised by Frank Amedure and Patricia Graves.
So sorry. When you said it's a large one, I was going to be like, sounds like it if he had 6 kids. Anyway.
Kate, right out the gate, I'm into it.
Here we go. It's because I had one of my espressos today. You guys, we got a new espresso machine that Matt has wanted for the longest time.
Yes.
And for the longest time, I've said, we don't need an espresso machine. I was wrong. That was stupid of me. We got a brand new coffee machine / espresso machine all in one. And it is life-changing. And I have espresso all day, every day now.
I'm jealous of you.
Mochas,
lattes. Kate texted me the other day and she's like, guess what I just made?
Oh my God. Was that the cinnamon toast latte?
Cinnamon toast latte, yeah.
Yeah. I had to steep that milk and make a special milk for it. Kevin, I'm telling you.
Milks.
It was milks. It was so good. Once the novelty wears off, I'll be normal again. But right now, I'm always caffeinated.
I strive to be that.
You've got your coffee
I've got
right
my
there.
pumpkin or no, it's not a latte. My pumpkin cold brew.
There you go.
Excellent.
Well on your way.
I love it. All right, Scott Amedure. He grew up in the Lake Orion area, just outside of Detroit.
Okay.
Where he spent most of his life. Scott had a laid-back charm, and he was the kind of person that stood out among his friends and neighbors. He was very charming, very kind person.
Okay.
People liked him. He was likable.
Good.
At 17, Scott was like, I'm done with high school. Don't like it. I'm going to the Air Force.
At 17?
17.
Was he a senior?
I think so, yeah. This was like his last year of high school. And he was
And
like,
he didn't
I'm out.
He didn't graduate?
Nope.
Wow.
Went straight to the Air Force. And it was a bold move, but that's just kind of the person that he was.
Okay.
Wanting to take on something new and challenging, and high school just wasn't that.
How were his parents on that decision?
I mean, he went and did it. I think they were probably worried about the 5 other kids they were raising.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
And he's obviously like older in a family of that.
Was he
many
the oldest?
kids. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he was ready to start the next chapter of his life. And I watched a Netflix documentary about this, which I'll link in the show notes. And Scott's brother, Frank is his older brother. So no, he wasn't the oldest. Talked a lot about Scott. And his family learned that he was gay when he was in the services.
Okay.
And Frank said that no one in the family actually took any issue with it.
Yeah.
They were like, great. Fine.
Yeah. Because there's nothing to take issue with.
Right. Which is nice to hear, especially this early on. Scott was known for his love of socializing and entertainment. He worked as a bartender at Club Flamingo, which was a gay nightclub in Pontiac, where I just was. I was visiting my friend Liz.
Oh, okay.
And you can take a train from Chicago to Pontiac.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I was just in Pontiac. So yeah, he when he got out of the Air Force, went and worked at a gay bar. If you talk to anyone who knew Scott, they'd tell you he had a knack for making people feel welcome.
Oh, okay.
His neighbor, Gail Clinton, once described him as a talk show junkie. So he was very into the talk shows. Just like I was as a kid and teenager as well. Someone who loved being in the middle of the action and soaking in the drama and excitement of life.
They were dramatic for sure.
So dramatic. I remember... You might have to cut this. I apologize. But the one that I think about all the time, I think it was an episode of Maury, but it was a woman who was addicted to crack cocaine. And she had a daughter, and the daughter was like confronting her about it on TV. And the daughter was like, you have to stop this. And the mom's like, no. And then the daughter's like, you steal money from me. Like, you steal stuff from me. Stop. And she like dead ass just like looks at the audience and she goes, I can still smoke crack and be a good mom.
Oh, honey.
You know, you can't.
The two just don't go together.
They don't. They're very like opposite ends of the spectrum of parenting, I feel like.
I think you're right.
Anyway, though, you know, Scott was having a pretty good life, he did have his share of challenges, of course, but he never let them define him. He was a man who lived with heart, and laughter, kindness brought people together. He's a great guy. So I want to go on the other person in this story.
All right.
Whose name is Jonathan Schmitz.
And we hate him.
We don't like Jonathan Schmitz.
Jonathan Shits.
He's on the shit list. So Jonathan was a Michigan native, born and raised in the Detroit area, of course. This is where all of this is taking place. He grew up in a working class family and kind of navigated the ups and downs of life like any young man in the Midwest at this time. By the time he was in his early 20s, Jonathan was living in Lake Orion.
Where our friend is living.
Exactly, where Scott is living. the quiet town not far from Detroit, and trying to find his way in the world.
Okay.
Jonathan wasn't necessarily someone who stood out in a crowd, but those who knew him described him as friendly and approachable.
All right.
He worked in various jobs and kept a low-key lifestyle, enjoying the simplicity of small-town living. At 24, he was the kind of guy who could strike up a conversation easily, whether with a neighbor or a stranger. He had a good sense of humor, liked to joke around. It made it easy for people to get along with him.
It sounds like he wasn't causing any trouble. Like he was just doing fine.
Right. That's the thing. But Jonathan also had some mental health struggles.
Here we are.
Yes, particularly with depression and Graves' disease.
Oh.
Graves' disease is I had to look this up because I didn't know what it was. But Graves' disease is an autoimmune condition causing hyperthyroidism that can significantly impact mental health by triggering symptoms like anxiety, irritability, mood swings, difficulty concentrating, insomnia, and depression.
And can you remind me what year we're in?
This is in 1995.
Okay. So growing up, he's in early 90s.
Early 90s. Late 80s, early 90s.
Okay. All right.
Yes. This is primarily due to the elevated levels of thyroid hormone affecting the brain's neurotransmitters and causing increased nervous system activity.
Okay.
So these symptoms can sometimes mimic other psychiatric disorders, making the diagnosis extremely challenging. So Jonathan and Scott Amedure met in Lake Orion, where they became acquaintances in the local social scene.
Oh, all right. Because it's a small town, so of course they're going to run into each other.
100%. Scott was a bartender, of course, at the Club Flamingo, and Jonathan actually occasionally went to Club Flamingo. I think despite being a gay bar, it was kind of just a social place where you could go and have a drink too.
Yeah.
Like,
like any bar.
Any bar. But I will say sometimes, there's this whole debate in the community about gay bars and like straight people infiltrating them. It's like a thing. And
I could see that because if it's a safe space, so to speak, in the gay community, I could see where that could be.
Yeah, some people get really offended by it, but at the same time, I feel like if you're there with someone of the community and being respectful, there's no issue. Also, I feel like it can also be a safe place for women feel safe there as well because they're not having to deal with the bullshit. I don't know. It's a whole thing. We can talk about it later. So over time, Jonathan and Scott struck up a casual friendship through mutual friends. Scott had that magnetic personality and making everyone feel included, and Jonathan liked that about him.
Yeah.
So though their friendship wasn't particularly close, they seemed to still get along, and yes, that's it. I don't know where else I was going with that. I apologize.
And that's it. They got along.
They knew each other.
Okay. Kind of hanging in the same circles. It sounds
they
like
had mutual friends.
Yeah.
I don't think they hung out like one-on-one together.
Yeah.
When we get into the Jenny Jones show, one of their mutual friends accompanies Scott. But I'm going to get into that now, actually. So Jenny Jones. The Jenny Jones show was one of those daytime talk shows that defined the 90s. It aired from 1991 to 2003. And if you were around back then, you probably caught an episode or 10.
Wow, Kevin's really having a moment over here.
I wrote that joke.
You don't say.
Oh my God, you're going to hate my Patreon episode. So while flipping through channels or staying home sick from school, I remember playing hooky and watching Jenny Jones.
Did you intentionally stay home from school to watch Jenny Jones?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't that into it.
All right. That's what I needed to know.
I'm not like Scott, because I'm pretty sure that's something he would do.
Oh, my.
So, hosted by the lively and personable Jenny Jones, the show became a staple of the trashy but addictive daytime TV. So, who was Jenny Jones, Kate?
I'm sure you're about to tell us, Kevin.
We're going to get into it. She was born Yanina Stronsky.
Didn't see that coming.
Sorry, I know, it's just so shocking. In Bethlehem, Palestine, in 1946, to Polish parents who eventually moved to Canada.
What a journey.
Right?
Wow.
So yeah, Jenny had a fascinating background. Before she became a talk show host, she was a drummer in a band.
Hey.
And even did stand-up comedy.
Okay, drummer in a band is my secret wannabe profession.
Yeah. Your niece is a drummer, right?
Electric guitar.
Electric guitarist.
Yes.
Got you. She was very funny, very approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Her humor and approachable personality were big reasons she found her niche as a talk show host. She wasn't as polished as Oprah.
Sure.
Or as serious as Dr. Phil.
Sure.
But that was her charm.
All right.
Oh, I said Dr. Phil and I meant to say Phil Donahue.
I was going to say, I don't think Dr. Phil was
Phil
happening
was not
yet.
out then. My apologies to Phil Donahue.
R.I.P.
Oh, yes. She was real. She was funny, a little chaotic, perfect for 90s TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the show itself was a mix of everything. Some episodes had serious, heartwarming stories. But let's be real. People tuned in for the drama.
Sure.
And Jenny delivered consistently. The show became famous or infamous for its more salacious and outrageous topics. Think over-the-top makeovers, wild relationship reveals, and the classic "My teen is out of control" episodes.
Yeah. Those, they just have zero appeal to me, those kind of shows, those kind of episodes.
Yeah.
I don't like listening to people just scream at each other or like blame each other for things. Like, it's just like, it's putting the worst of people on display.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah, I agree. And you never know what's real and what's not. 'Cause
right.
some of these shows, it was real. Like Jenny Jones, this story is very real. But, you know, you hear about Jerry Springer and like a lot of those were fake.
Of course.
But damn, they do a good job. So Jenny had a knack for bringing on guests who were willing to air their dirty laundry for the world to see, and audiences ate it up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the show's signature styles was its loud, raucous energy. Guests would come out with booming applause. Audience members shouted their opinions, and Jenny leaned into the drama. She was acting as both mediator and instigator. Which
well,
is
and that's
important.
also the producers too,
100%,
saying, "Okay,
telling her.
now when everybody comes out, like I want you to shout, I want you to boo, I want you to like."
You know, there's people like giving the audience
exactly.
direction. I've been to shows. No, I haven't been to a show like this, but I've been to TV show tapings.
Yeah,
and there's always an audience person being like, "So now."
Exactly.
Yeah. Some of the episodes were also like "My Mom Dresses Too Sexy" and revealing same-sex crushes and everything in between. So the revealing the same-sex crushes is what we're going to dive into.
Yeah.
But also, despite the reputation for some sensationalism, Jenny Jones did have lighter moments as well. I don't want to like just say it was all trash. But Jenny often used her platform to showcase talent or give everyday people a moment in the spotlight. And she was genuinely funny, I think, which made it even the most outrageous episodes entertaining. So she wasn't afraid to poke fun at herself either.
Yeah.
And her down-to-earth vibe kept people coming back. It was a time capsule full of big hair, questionable fashion, and juicy TV. So in the mid-90s, Scott, Amedure, and Jonathan Schmitz found themselves at the center of one of the most infamous moments in daytime TV history, thanks to the Jenny Jones Show. Jonathan and Scott found themselves as part of a segment, or an episode, I should say, of revealing same-sex secret crushes.
And this probably isn't going to go well.
This is not going to go well. Spoiler. Scott was the kind of person, you know, who, as I've said before, wasn't afraid to share his feelings, and that's what led him to sign up for this on the Jenny Jones Show. So he, along with his close friend and mutual friend of Jonathan Schmitz, Donna Riley, were set to attend the show.
All right.
He had a crush, and he thought it would be fun, maybe even romantic, to surprise the person with his feelings on national television, and that person was Jonathan Schmitz.
Never surprise your crush on national television. Just it's not a good idea.
I agree.
Not a good way to go. I mean, not to say like, you know, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but maybe that's just not a segment that a show like that should have.
Yes, and I think we'll talk about this a little more because I don't know how much of it was Scott doing it and how much the show was pushing it.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that more. But the episode was set up for drama, of course.
Of course.
And Scott and Jonathan were both invited to appear, but Jonathan didn't know exactly why. Like,
right, because they're not going to tell him.
No, he wasn't super clued in. He was told the episode involved someone revealing a secret crush, but he wasn't informed about
who?
anything else. Like who, if male or female, anything.
Sure.
So there he was sitting backstage waiting for this big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
When Scott came out on stage, he was full of charm and humor. Encouraged by Jenny and the show's producers, Scott shared some playful, cheeky fantasies he'd had about Jonathan.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I don't know if I say this, I'll say it now, but I watched the clip they showed in court, like the segment, and she's prying.
See,
she's like, no, tell me, no, like, what have you had any fantasies? Like, what were they? I mean, come on, tell me.
Oh my God.
And he's like, maybe.
That's so irresponsible on her part. And I'm sure there was a producer in her ear, but also as the host, you're driving that. You don't have to ask those questions.
You don't, 100%. And so that was my issue with it when I saw it. What I took away was like, I don't know what he was saying was real.
Sure.
I think, was he making it up on the spot? Because, like, she's forcing it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on TV. You're in front of an audience.
Course.
Like, you don't want to be like, no.
Oh, this is messy.
It's messy. So he reveals it's Jonathan. She's like, tell me about the sexy fantasies you've had about him. And the audience is loving this.
Of course.
Laughter, applause, gasps, the whole shebang.
Sure.
So when Jonathan was finally brought out, the atmosphere was like electric.
Yeah. They're probably all pumped, ready to see what's going to happen.
And Jenny was really hamming everything up. So he comes out on stage, sits down, and then it's revealed that Scott is the one that has the crush.
Yeah.
And to Jonathan's credit, like, he handled it with a lot of composure.
I've seen this clip once, and it was years ago, because I remember like watching something about this case. So I don't really remember it. I'll have to go back and watch to see that whole interaction.
Yeah, go back and watch it, because like when they get to trial, like, it becomes a point of contention of his reaction.
Okay.
Because the defense lawyers are saying, like, he was so uncomfortable and angry. And I did not see that.
Okay.
That is not what I observed.
Yeah. But again, also, he's on TV.
He's on TV, so we don't know.
He
could be acting.
A camera changes everything.
Mm-hmm. So he comes out on stage, gives Scott somewhat of an awkward hug, and politely made it clear that he was straight.
Yeah.
It wasn't what he expected, but he didn't lash out, didn't cause a scene. He was like, oh, you tricked me. Like, laughing. So this all goes down. Jenny makes him share the sex fantasies with Jonathan.
What?
Yeah. That I don't even think were real to begin with.
That's too far.
Yeah,
that's messed up.
It's pushing it. So yeah, he was like, oh, you tricked me. They taped this segment. It wasn't long. The segment that they put together was probably like 7 minutes.
Sure.
Oh, I thought you were raising your finger.
Oh, no, I was just looking at my nails. Sorry.
Did you ever hear that thing, like, if you ask a guy about how they look at their fingernails?
Oh, yes.
You did You did the straight guy
versus
thing.
This. Yeah, stupid.
I don't even look.
I don't even have nails. I really don't. What I have on here is a growth polish to try to make them grow. I mean, I have nails.
Oh, I was like, ew.
You looked so horrified.
You're like, I don't have any. I have stuff on them to make them grow. And I'm like,
these fingers are fake. No, it's just some polish because I just cannot keep nails. Let's move on.
I'm sorry. But one thing real quick. I did see a lady on TikTok who got those long acrylics, but she had them fashioned and painted as fingers with a real nail on the top.
I hate everything about
like
that.
Really light. She's like drinking a dirty martini.
Nope, I hate it. But you know what I am obsessed with is Cynthia Erivo's nails in every press interview she does for Wicked.
We didn't talk about going to Wicked.
Oh my God. So we went to Wicked.
I
know, that feels like so long ago.
Kate took me for my birthday. We had a fabulous evening.
It was so fun. I really wanted to see it again in theaters, but then I got COVID. I was going to go see it in IMAX. And I couldn't.
Think it's still playing in IMAX if you want to try.
Not near us. I already looked up.
Fuck.
But
I did too.
Oh my God, it's so good. And that moment where towards the end where she takes that cape and she's like, whoosh.
The whole Defying Gravity
is
stunning.
Chef's kiss to
Ariana
that movie.
Grande, obsessed.
Hilarious.
Cynthia Erivo, what a performance.
It's her movie.
Everybody just giving everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Michelle Yeoh, when she
I
takes
love
that
her.
turn. And
Her Madame Morrible was so sort of demure and like
it's
that
so,
calm
so
evil,
good.
you know?
It's so good.
That wicked witch. Oh my God. Anyway, we have to go see it again.
I loved it.
Yes. Okay, so Jonathan and Scott. So after the taping, they went out for drinks together.
All right.
It almost seemed like an unusual but harmless encounter. Like this is a funny story we're going to talk about years later. It's going to be no big deal. What didn't air and what most people don't know is that producers testified Jonathan was informed before the show that his admirer could be a man.
Okay.
I don't get how that makes a difference, but
yeah,
whatever. I mean, you know what the segment is. Like, it's revealing a crush. And he even said that in his like testimony. Still, the live reveal combined with the crowd's reaction could have caught him off guard regardless. But though their lives would later become intertwined in a tragic way, this moment on Jenny Jones was indicative of a cultural shift that was happening at this time, when conversations about sexuality and personal boundaries were just beginning to enter the mainstream dialogue. So it was messy and complicated, as most things are when they start out. Sure. Which I get. I'm not saying that justifies murder.
Oh, no, yeah.
But culturally, it's a significant moment.
Yes.
To have something like this on on a show. Over the next few days after the taping, Jonathan felt humiliated by the experience. And he wasn't prepared for the public reveal and didn't want to be known as someone who might be gay. This feeling of embarrassment began to eat at him. So on the morning of March 9th, 1995, Jonathan went to an ATM, withdrew money, bought a gun and some ammunition, and then drove to Scott's trailer in Waterford Township, Michigan.
What an escalation. Like, you got embarrassed. You chose to go on the show. You could have said, no, I don't want to appear on a TV show. No one dragged you to a TV show. You were possibly told it was about a crush. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Regardless, you didn't walk off the set. You volunteered to be there. You sat through it. You then volunteered to go to drinks with this man and kind of laugh it off. And then you just went, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed now, so I think I'm going to murder him.
Right.
So fucked up.
Such an escalation. So Jonathan knocked on Scott's door, and when Scott opened it, Jonathan shot him twice in the chest.
Fucked up.
Scott collapsed in the doorway, and Jonathan just walked away.
Wow.
He left Scott to die, and the tragedy was now part of a much bigger conversation about hate, homophobia, and the consequences of a TV show pushing boundaries. In the documentary, after he walks off the porch after shooting him, he does call 911 and say, I just shot someone. He says, I just shot someone.
I mean, a little late.
Yeah.
But all right.
Jonathan is arrested pretty much immediately, and he pleads guilty to second-degree murder. I'm pretty sure it's first-degree murder.
Pretty sure it's first when you went to the ATM, withdrew money, bought a gun, went over there. You had it planned, honey.
He knew he was going to kill him. Yeah.
Wow.
So in 1996, he goes to trial, and they find him guilty.
Well, yeah.
And sentence him to 25 to 50 years.
Bye.
However, there was an error in the jury selection process.
What do you mean?
Someone, if I'm remembering correctly, somebody lied about knowing them, Jonathan and Scott.
Oh, they said that they didn't know them when they did? Fuck that person. So they did they have to...
Mistrial immediately.
Fuck.
Yeah. So...
People, don't be shitheads.
Yeah. There was another trial that went forward in 1999. The big question during the trial was whether or not Jonathan had been provoked enough by Scott's actions on the show to justify his violent reaction.
No. Impossible to even argue that.
Right. Oh, they argue it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And we'll talk about the gay panic defense.
Oh, my God.
So Jonathan's defense attorney, I think it's Jeremy Sabata, who's a fucking cunt.
All right.
I'm sorry to just say that. That's the worst word I can think of right now. Because he's in this documentary, and he's such a piece of shit. I want to punch him in the face. Even the other attorneys were like, yeah, we don't listen to what he's saying. So he tries to claim that Scott had provoked Jonathan by revealing his crush on TV. The lawyer argued that Jonathan had acted in a state of gay panic, a defense often used at the time to argue that a person could lose control when faced with unwanted same-sex advances.
The thing about this is it's the same thing as saying it's okay for a man to kill a woman if she tells him she likes him and he doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy how they weaponize homosexuality to be like, oh no, this is something wrong. He did something bad, and therefore you can kill him because you didn't like it. It's so fucked up.
That's so fucking stupid. It happens even today in other ways.
Yeah.
Right? People take people's identities and sexualities and say, well, I'm not comfortable with that.
So I get to do whatever I want to you.
They're the problem.
Exactly.
I eliminated the problem.
Yeah, this is,
it's disgusting.
Dangerous.
So let's talk about the gay panic defense, Kate.
All right. I mean, I feel like we are.
No. I mean, like, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. And I don't mean to say that in a condescending manner.
It's okay. I get it.
So the gay panic defense is one of those ugly chapters in American legal history. And Michigan was one of the places where it really left a mark. So the idea behind the defense was simple, but in a really messed up, fucked up kind of way. It's a legal strategy that allowed someone to claim they were so shocked or upset by someone's sexual advances, particularly from someone of the same sex, that it caused them to react violently. They'd argue that the shock or distress was enough to justify a murder or assault. It was like saying, I didn't mean to hurt anyone, but when someone came on to me, I just lost it. And this defense worked.
Did they find him not guilty?
No, not in this case. I just mean in general.
Oh,
it worked in other cases.
Got you.
So in Michigan, the gay panic defense became infamous in the 1990s, especially after Scott's murder. So Schmitz's defense in the trial was that Amedure's crush had been a kind of provocation that drove him to kill, using that defense to just justify why he was shot twice in the chest and murdered. It didn't work for Schmitz, this defense.
Good.
Thank God. But the case highlighted just how deeply this defense had taken root in Michigan's legal system and across the country. The gay panic defense had been around for a long time. It was never a law on the books.
But it was like one of those
legal tactic that defense attorneys used to reduce the severity of a defendant's crime. It played on the fear, discomfort, and hostility toward LGBTQIA plus people. The idea was that the defendant's violent actions were a natural response and they couldn't help themselves.
Oh my God.
So for decades, the defense was used in various places and it had devastating effects. It was often used in cases where an LGBTQIA plus person was murdered, and it could reduce a first-degree murder charge to manslaughter.
Wow. That's so fucked.
Meaning way less prison time.
Of course.
For the perpetrator. But in Michigan, as public awareness about LGBTQ rights grew in the 2000s, there was a push to change the law and stop the defense from being used. Activists, legal professionals, and organizations like Equality Michigan worked hard to raise awareness about the harm that this defense caused. So it was part of a larger movement to eliminate legal strategies that reinforce discrimination.
Yeah.
So finally, in 2018, Michigan became the first state to officially ban the use of that defense in court.
All right.
This came after years of advocacy and the growing realization that the defense wasn't just flawed, it was dangerous.
It's interesting that Michigan was the first state to do it. Yeah.
Right? The law made it clear that a person's sexual orientation or gender identity could no longer be used as an excuse to justify violence or reduce a criminal sentence.
Yeah.
Now, Michigan's law stands as a reminder that you can't use someone's identity to hurt them, and it highlights how much work still needs to be done to protect LGBTQIA plus people from discrimination, violence, and injustice. It's a step forward, which is good and great. I'm curious, and I didn't look this up, but I want to look up what other states have banned it as well.
Yeah.
What's good, I guess, is that in this case, the jury wasn't buying that at all. And they saw through the attempt to blame Scott for his own death.
Good.
They saw right through it. And in just 3 days, they found Jonathan guilty of second-degree murder again.
Okay.
Again, I would argue it was first degree.
It definitely was.
So I don't...
But I wonder if... maybe the prosecution didn't want to go for first degree for
fear, lack of not getting that.
Yeah.
And then I think it was probably better. I could see that play, if you will, in Elite, because it is like a game, right?
Especially if the whole thing was this gay panic defense, and
and they knew they're going to come with that.
Yeah,
but the thing is, the gay panic defense also had the ability in previous cases to take it from first degree to manslaughter. So that was the precedent, right?
All right.
Ugh. It made national headlines, and the Jenny Jones show was under intense scrutiny.
Yeah, I was going to say, what were their repercussions?
Yeah, we'll talk about that because there was a civil case from the family.
Okay.
In the end, Jonathan was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison. Did he serve all of those, Kate?
I'm going to guess no.
He served 17 years behind bars before being released on August 22nd, 2017.
Oh my God, for taking someone's life.
Mm-hmm. He's still alive. He's still out there.
And he just gets to live his life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because he got embarrassed one day. And he decided to murder someone.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Agreed. So in 1999, at the same time as the trial is going on with Jonathan, Amedure's family files a civil suit against the Jenny Jones show and its producers.
Good. I mean, yeah, I feel like they've got some responsibility here.
Yeah. They claimed that the show was responsible for the emotional distress and humiliation Amedure experienced, which led to the tragic event.
And also, what about Scott's humiliation? I mean, they kind of
exploited him. Well, that's what I was just
him.
saying here. Like, they exploited him hard.
Yeah. I mean, he probably didn't love airing these, whether they were true or not, sexual fantasies about his, acquaintance.
Well, I mean, the family, and that's exactly it. The family was arguing that Scott was also like humiliated by this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the case was about whether the producers had set up a dangerous situation that contributed to the murder. So the second trial, which took place in 1989, ended with a significant victory for Amedure's family.
Okay.
The jury sided with them, and the producers of the show were found liable for the harm caused by the episode. The jury awarded $25 million in damages to Amedure's family. Don't get too excited.
Oh.
And it seemed like they had won an important legal battle. The family argued that the producers manipulated everything, and it just caused this whole situation to happen.
Yeah.
So the victory was short-lived. The decision was appealed, and in 2002, the Michigan Court of Appeals overturned the jury's ruling. The court found that the Jenny Jones show was not responsible for Amedure's death and ruled that the producers were not liable for the consequences of Schmitz's actions. Essentially, the court decided that while the show's producers may have created an emotionally charged environment, they couldn't be held legally responsible for the murder that followed.
I mean, I do agree with that. They did not pull the trigger, but there has to be some kind of repercussion for them because
accountability.
Yeah, they definitely set up the situation intentionally to cause drama, to cause conflict.
Yeah.
There's a British TV show, I think I might want to cover it at some point, that in a similar way, the host was constantly like having people come on and air their dirty laundry and all this stuff. And I think it also led to a murder.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeremy Kyle?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to say Jeremy Irons. So I was like, it's not Jeremy Irons.
Yeah. I used to watch Jeremy Kyle when I lived in the UK.
Oof.
Yikes. Amedure's family tried to challenge that second decision, taking the case to the Michigan Supreme Court. However, in 2003, the state's highest court declined to hear the case. Leaving the ruling of the Court of Appeals intact.
I see.
This was a big blow
to
the family's legal fight, and it was pretty much the end of their efforts to hold the show accountable through the civil court system.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, after that, there was nothing really else they could do. The outcome of the civil trial and appeals that followed sparked a bigger conversation of ethical responsibility in TV at this time. Especially, the length that producers will go to create drama for entertainment.
Yeah.
While the courts ultimately sided with the Jenny Jones show, everybody I think was pretty mad about this at the time because the Jenny Jones show and the producers weren't taking any kind of accountability.
Yeah.
And they didn't even publicly. Jenny Jones had a strong reaction to the murder. Jenny expressed her sympathy for the tragedy, but also defended the show's intentions.
Oh, come on.
She claimed that the show's aim had never been to harm anyone and that it was meant to be a lighthearted entertainment. didn't.
At that time in this country, nothing about that topic was lighthearted.
Right. And she acknowledged it was shocking and, was sad that it happened, but she argued she's not responsible at all. In her view, the show was about revealing secrets in a fun way, not causing lasting harm. She also pointed out that after the taping, Amedure and Schmitz had gone out for drinks, suggesting that no immediate tension had been caused. That doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. I mean, I see where she's coming from, but yeah, there's got to be...
Well, and also, like, right after it happens, it's not like it's sinking in yet,
Well, yeah, and there's just got to be some... You got to take responsibility for your role in things at some point.
Yeah.
Like, you can't always be like, no, it wasn't my fault. Someone else did it.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, someone else did do it, but you played a part.
Yeah. And that's I feel like that's some of the hardest stuff legally that people grapple with.
Yeah, because you can't really prove it.
You can't prove it. So, though Jenny moved on after the show ended, the murder stayed with her. It was a dark reminder of how a high-stakes environment could result in real-world harm. While she regretted the tragedy, she maintained that it's not my responsibility, arguing that the show was simply offering people a platform to share their stories.
Not exactly how she went about it, but okay.
So yeah, that's the murder of Scott Amedure, and
so senseless.
It's senseless. It's heartbreaking. How hatred can lead to murder, and then people just saying, "Wasn't me."
Yeah.
Scott was a great, he was a person who had a lot of life ahead of him.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve it. It's a sad chapter that shows how far we still have to go when it comes to accepting people for who they are and how we treat each other when faced with something uncomfortable.
Yeah. Woof.
There are ways.
And
murder is not one of them.
Don't do murder.
Don't do it.
But do leave your comments on this episode on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And we forgot to mention this at the top, but shout out to Chelsea Camp, who was an apprentice. Nope. An accomplice and upgraded to a Misfit Murderino. So thank you so much, Chelsea. If you want to be just like her, you can jump on over to Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
Do we have anything else to say?
Rate, review, and subscribe.
Hey, there you go. And don't do murder.
Don't do murder.
Bears repeating.
Yeah, don't do it.
Bye.
Bye.